Greetings and welcome to you on this 18th day. I guess yesterday was St. Patrick's Day, the 18th of March, and it is day 29 of Lent, and it is Monday. Yay for Monday. Our devotion today is from Matthew chapter 24, verses 1 through 14, reading from the New Living Translation. As Jesus was leaving the temple grounds, his disciples pointed out to him the various temple buildings. But he responded, "Do you see all these buildings? I tell you the truth, they will be completely demolished. Not one stone will be left on top of another." Later, Jesus sat on the Mount of Olives. His disciples came to him privately and said, "Tell us, when will all this happen? What sign will signal your return and the end of the world?" Jesus told them, "Don't let anyone mislead you, for many will come in my name, claiming I am the Messiah. They will deceive many, and you will hear of wars and threats of wars, but don't panic. Yes, these things must take place, but the end won't follow immediately. Nation will go to war against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in many parts of the world, but all this is only the first of the birth pains, with more to come. Then you will be arrested, persecuted, and killed. You will be hated all over the world because you are my followers. And many will turn away from me and betray and hate each other, and many false prophets will appear and will deceive many people. Sin will be rampant everywhere, and the love of many will grow cold. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. And the good news about the kingdom will be preached throughout the whole world, so that all nations will hear it, and then the end will come." In reference to nations, don't think of the nations that we know today, the borders and all of that kind of thing. The nations is a biblical term to refer to all peoples. All peoples will hear this gospel of the kingdom preached, and then the end will come. Remember, our book is Lent and Missions, a 40-day devotional by Bradley Beal and Nathan Sloan, and we appreciate their insights into putting a focus on missions during this time of Lent. In Matthew 24, Jesus lays out some significant guarantees in his global mission. The nations will rage, the church will suffer, and the gospel will advance. Some have made this passage into a formula, saying that as soon as we preach the gospel to every nation, Jesus will automatically return. But this interpretation demonstrates a misunderstanding of the passage. Jesus' return is not dependent on us. And he makes it clear that no one knows the day or hour of his coming. Later on in Matthew 24, verse 36, he says that. All we know is that God will advance his good news through his people. And when the time is right, Jesus will return in all his glory. This truth has the power to fill us with confidence, boldness, and a willingness to sacrifice. This Lenten season of waiting on Easter is an excellent training ground for learning to wait more desperately for Jesus' second coming. As we do this with eager anticipation, may we live our lives on mission for others, so that they may experience his forgiveness his goodness, and his eternal fellowship. It's almost an oxymoron here, the sense that as far as God's people are concerned, things are going to get tough at the end. A lot of false teachers. Jesus warns about that 3 times in Matthew 24, about when the disciples, in answering that question, when will be the time? What will be the sign of your coming? Antichrists, small a, not the Antichrist per se. False prophets, those claiming to be the Messiah will show up. And we're having that. We're living that. Those things are apparent now. What we need to be aware of is being on our guard. It seems to be a day and age that we're living in which would make these kinds of things possible. Certainly nations are raging against nations. Persecution of Christians is extensive around the world. I'm talking real persecution, not please don't have your church meetings for a couple of weeks because of a disease. That's not real persecution. That's being inconvenienced, maybe. Nigeria, parts of India, so many places in our world today, if you're a Christian, it's a life-threatening confession. Neighbor against neighbor, family against family, government trying to shut up those who proclaim the name of Christ. And then we have that flip side. While that'll be the case, Jesus says, yet my gospel's going out. It's going to continue to go out. Hopefully, that kind of persecution is what makes us bold to share the name of Christ, as the early church was. Disciples martyred because they would not shut their mouths when proclaiming Christ. That's the hope for this world, is that there are bold Christians who declare the gospel. Not their favorite doctrines, not their favorite political stances wrapped up in Bible verses, but the gospel, the good news of the kingdom. That all of us, there's not one righteous, no, not one. We've all sinned. We all fall short of the glory of God. And the only remedy for that is the righteousness of Christ put to our account through the grace, hope, and mercy of God. That's the good news. That's the good news that needs to be spread to all the peoples. And if we know it, and if our lives have been transformed and changed by it, then we have got to be doing that. Or else, if we're ashamed of Christ in this day, he says he will be ashamed of us on that day when we stand before the Father. Here's our prayer for the day. Father, you have guaranteed that your mission will succeed. This is my confidence before you, that if I ask anything according to your will, you hear me. And if you hear me, I know I have whatever I asked of you. Fill me now with confidence in your global mission, so I have words to fearlessly make known the mystery of the gospel to others. Amen. And blessings to you today on this Monday.